Hey guys, how's everybody doing today? It is a great, beautiful Sunday afternoon today. The sun's about to go down though, and it's a great day out here today. It's not that cold outside, and I'm here with my truck. Not much wind today, so I'm glad that for obviously the quality of my videos. But anyway, so here's my truck. It's my 2013 Chevrolet Silverado. I have a suspension and body lift, but specifically today I'm going to be talking about my body lift I have on the truck, and actually 5 reasons not to buy a body lift. It was actually a mistake for me to buy this because I honestly wish I just went with a bigger suspension lift up front. I would have saved money. I would actually have higher height right now, so that means I would have been able to get bigger tires, and I wouldn't have some of these terrible things that come with a body lift that some people may not know of, or they've heard about them before. And there's not going to be any order really about this, but the first thing I want to talk about is the gap that you get, and at least for the frame in general. If you come down here, you can see that there is a big, massive gap between the body of my truck and the frame of my truck. You can see like this, the stock positioning of the gap was probably about right here, an inch, but because I added an 1.5 inches of body lift, the gap between here is huge. Now, when I first saw this, it didn't really bother me. It did start to bother me because I did start noticing that, especially driving through the day, seeing sunlight shine through there. Now it doesn't really bother me at all, because if you look at the overall, the vehicle, it does sit higher, and I like that, and it's kind of worth it to me now. And I already have it, so like I'm not going to just take it off and spend money to take it off. But if I do want to get a bigger suspension lift down the road, but that's for another video. Anyway, so to continue with the gap, the frame also sits down higher. Now, I don't have a 2500, 3500. Some people have thought that I did because of how much frame does show, but because it's not 2500, 3500, the frame doesn't show that much, and it's bearable to me. I want it to have that tougher look. I want more frame to show. It looks better to me at least, and I kind of like the look of that. And it doesn't bother me at all. Okay, and for the second reason not to buy a body lift is actually in the back of the truck here. You will not be able to, as you can see down here, I do not have my spare tire. And one of the main reason why I took that down is because the rust, these frame rails are actually rusting pretty bad. I took care of that in another video if you want to check that out on how to rust proof your truck. So I took care of all of that. The rust isn't there anymore, but the main reason why it was rusting was because of the spare tire. But even if I wanted to keep the spare tire there, it wouldn't be a good idea anyway, because I couldn't even use it. The reason why I couldn't even use it is because behind the license plate here, well, at least when you try to poke the spare tire tool through, I don't know if you guys can see that there, but the tube does not align with the frame anymore. If you see, the tube is sitting a little bit higher, and even if you remove the tube, you'll never be able to get it to align through this here and actually go to the spare tire winch and get your spare tire down. So that's the reason not to get a body lift. Another one is that you have to cut your frame, and I actually talked to the shop that put it on. I was like, you guys didn't cut my frame to be able to use the spare tire winch anymore, and they said that that's actually dangerous and not to do that. And so that's why I actually held back on doing that, and I figured, you know, hey, why even bother? Because it's actually just bad to use the spare tire anyway, to have it under there and rusting. So why weaken your frame with the body lift when you can just take the tire out? But that's still not a reason to get it, because most of you guys, I know a lot of people that just keep their spare tire where it's supposed to be, because who wants to just take that out of there? That's where it's for. What the purpose of having it there is, if you get a flat, you can take it out, and everyone's just used to having it there, so people don't want to bother. And it was honestly really hard to get it down. I had to use like a joint socket and a couple other tools to get it down, but I finally got it down without having to modify my frame. And that's just that's a big reason why not to get a body lift. That was honestly the most time consuming thing, and a fault that happened because of my body lift. And just in case you guys are wondering, I do keep my spare tire in my bed now, and I tie it there with a special kind of bike lock. So I do still have my spare tire, and I do still have it available. It's just, it's easier for me to get to now, and obviously I can't even use the spare tire holder down there. So I even took the whole winch off, and I'm actually selling that right now. So for the third reason on not to get a body lift, it's actually under the hood here. It's the only way I can really show you guys Let me just open that up for you. Pretty much everything's stock under the hood. Not much to see under here, but if you just look at the overall look now, for you guys that don't own like an 07 to 13 Silverado or body styles close to that, you might not be able to really tell. Maybe if you're a mechanic, you can, and you see a lot of cars, you can tell that this is not right. But if you can see this here, is that everything should be up about 1.5 inches. Everything in here, just about, should be up 1.5 inches. When I got the body lift, it raised the whole body up. A lot of these things just receded down. You can see there's a lot of space between the engine cover and the top of the body there. Everything receded a little bit, so it makes it a little bit hard to get in there, especially when you also have a suspension lift on top of this. I couldn't imagine if I had the 3.5-inch body lift, everything would just be so low in there. You'd have to get a ladder and have to almost fall in there to be able to work on anything. But that's another big reason on not to get it, is the look. I've never actually heard anyone talk about this. It probably doesn't bother people too much, but I've noticed this almost immediately, and I kind of don't like it. I kind of liked when everything was just kind of in my face. Everything was easy to get to, easy to work on. But now that everything's about 1.5 inches, it does make things noticeably different, and I kind of don't like that. And I don't get why other people don't mention that. That's a big thing. So always put that into consideration too. Remember that, because I'm pretty much the only person that really talks about this, is that the whole engine bay is receded, and if I had a 3.5, it would just be horrible. It would just, I couldn't even stand it. Okay, and now for the fourth reason on why you should not buy a body lift for your truck, Jeep, or whatever vehicle that does not have a unibody suspension, and that is the front bumper. Actually, okay, so when I got the body lift first put on, the whole bumper here was actually sitting about 1.5 inches lower than everything else. I think I might have a picture. I think I deleted it though, because it was just so ugly. It honestly looked horrible. Like, it was terrible. The bumper was just sitting at a stock position when the whole rest of the truck was sitting 1.5 inches higher, and it was completely noticeable. It looked like something was wrong. It looked like the vehicle was broken, someone would say, that doesn't really know much about vehicles. And it just looked hideous. And to top it all off, I went back to my shop that put it on. I was like, you know, hey, this is not right. This should be lifted up too. And then they're like, oh yeah, that is right. I'm gonna try to fix that for you right now. So I give them back the keys, and I try to get this thing fixed by them, and they're like, oh, sorry, there's nothing we can do. They said something about the frame can't be changed. I don't know what they were saying, because like the bumper does mount to the frame, but I'm saying, like, I don't know what they were talking about. They said like they couldn't do anything about it, and like that was just absurd to me. I just took my vehicle back, and I was like, hey, I'm never gonna come here again. I'm not going to mention the shop or anything like that, but it was just horrible that they did that to me, because obviously that's not right. I'm sure all the guys in there was like, man, that's hideous. Like, people get a body lift and they want it to be back in their normal position. Now you're also probably wondering, well, how did I get this back in my normal position? Well, I went to my Chevy dealer in Mechanicsburg, Pennsylvania, Lawrence Chevrolet. They've bailed me out of a lot of different things. Well, not bailed me out, but, you know, like just situations that other shops couldn't take care of. That's why I always stick with my dealer. And some say, well, you can save money somewhere else. Well, I stick to my dealer because they're actually really skillful guys, and they know how to get the job done, opposed to other shops. Well, I know there's good shops out there, but at least the ones that I've dealt with. Anyway, so they were able to take it in, and I'd say like a half an hour to an hour, as opposed to the other shop that took it for the whole day and couldn't figure it out. Lawrence Chevrolet was able to get this bumper back in factory position. I honestly was about to give up, because like when I actually believed the original shop that did the body lift that there was nothing I could do, and that would be horrible, because then I was thinking like, man, I'm gonna have to spend money to take this thing off, and then I'm gonna have to sell the body lift for like less than half the price I bought it for. But anyway, so, and I put all that work, money spent into it, but they were able to fix the bumper. It looks great now. Honestly, that was like a really good day. It made me smile a lot. I'm glad that it is back in the position that it is now, because that was just horrible. I don't know if you guys can just imagine it, but 1.5 inches lower, this bumper just looked horrible. The truck it did not look right, and I just had less clearance. Obviously, there was no more tire clearance at all, because if you come over here to the side, but this was just still sitting down lower, so this was just closer to the tire. And obviously the body lift didn't really do much anything for me for tire clearance, and that's like the #1 reason why people buy these lifts. So it's just ridiculous. Anyways, but it is fixed now, so I can be happy again. It looks good. Oh yeah, and I also noticed with a 2000, I think it was a 16 or a 17, I saw one at this 4-wheel drive place in Mechanicsburg. It was white, it was color matching, it looked great. It had a lift, it had a 6-inch lift with a 3-inch body lift. I immediately noticed the body lift because of the gap in the back, but I did notice they put covers over it, so that is something else you can do for that. But it did look great, and the truck did look great, but I did notice when I came up close, the bumper here was sitting like this. They did bring the whole front end up, but I guess they couldn't get the sides to come back up to the normal position there, and that did not look good to me. That would be a deciding factor if I got a 3-inch body lift or not. I would honestly, I don't know what I would do, but I could not deal with that. Having a 2016 or 17 Silverado, we're talking a brand new truck here with a problem with something sagging, because that's obviously what it looks like. And obviously older cars, things start to sag, bolts and nuts start to rust, things aren't as strong as they used to be. But I mean, a 16 or 17, you can't have an imperfection like that. That is just totally absurd. You can just tell that like there's something wrong. And for the last but not least, the 5th and final reason why you should not buy a lift kit, well, at least a body lift kit for your truck, Jeep, or whatever vehicle that allows you to have the body lift. Also, do not fabricate your own body lift. That's a very bad idea. Some people use hockey pucks. You don't want your body mounts to break. You could easily get into a horrible accident. Your body could just fly off the frame, and you may not honestly have a life to live anymore. So do not do that. I really recommend you do not do that and buy from a reputable company. I do not get paid to say this, but my body lift is from Zone Off-Road, which is a really good company, and I wanted to actually get the 1.5-inch lift. And honestly, the reason why I actually spent a little bit more and I had to buy more for the rear bumper brackets, because my bumper was in the back was actually sitting lower, and I didn't like that either. I knew there was some stuff that you can like do like HD bumper pads, but I figured I didn't want to get into that, and I'd just buy the brackets. But anyways, the reason why I spent a little bit more actually to get the Zone or the Rough Country and just get like a combo lift, because I know they do have a combo lift with the suspension lift that I have now, the Rough Country 3.5 with a 1.25-inch body lift with Rough Country. But I didn't want to have that 1/4 inch. That's kind of weird. Like when you think about suspension lifts, like you're like, hey guys, I just got a 4 3/4 inch lift. Like that's just so weird. I didn't want to do that. So that's why I got the 1.5-inch lift. So that way, obviously 3.5-inch lift, suspension lift with my 1.5-inch body equals out the total of 5. And that's kind of what I wanted. Obviously, and people say that Zone is better. They make better suspension lifts, and I obviously have to agree from the things I've seen about their trucks opposed to Rough Country. So I do want to get rid of my Rough Country suspension lift soon. I'm not going to just take it off and not have a lift. I do want to go with a bigger lift, possibly from Zone, but I'm still looking into that. Anyways, that could be coming very soon, so always tune in for that, because that is something very possible that could be coming to the truck and the Upshift Z71 channel very soon. So that is honestly the 5th. Well, actually, I never actually got into that. Sorry about that, guys. The 5th and final reason is actually the center of gravity. Now, obviously, when you lift any sort of way, you're going to be changing your center of gravity of your truck. So when you're making turns, you're obviously going to feel more top heavy. You might squeal the tires. It's going to be harder to turn. You're going to feel a little bit unstable. Well, with a body lift, you got to think about is that you're honestly making the entire truck just taller. From the frame to the top is going to be taller, so the amount of weight up there is going to be a lot different, and so that's one of the things that you don't want to have to your truck. And also with moving from the bottom to the top of the truck actually becoming taller, another reason why you don't want to do that or have that happen, opposed to just getting a suspension lift where everything is the length is not changed, your truck just gets higher in the air. So if you want to look back here, you can actually see, if you guys have a Silverado like mine, or you just notice that the exhaust pipe has a big gap between the top of the pipe and the body now, and that's because obviously raising the body up from the frame from the body lift, it adds more space to the exhaust, and I don't like the look of that at all. I don't think that looks good to me, and the gap and all the other things that I said about a body lift. And so if I could really go back, think about what 3.5 inches is. Like, that's not that big of an amount. Why spend the money to do that? Because you're spending like similar amount of time at work to get that done. So I would not buy a body lift in the beginning. I would have saved money if I went with the bigger lift. So what you guys and what I would have done and what you should do is buy the bigger lift up front. Honestly, I would have probably bought in like the zone 6.5, the rough country 6-inch. Just go with the bigger lift up front. Just trust me on this one, guys. Like, you're seeing this right here. Here's a solid video example of why you shouldn't skip out and buy the smaller lifts up front, because you're gonna want more. I could still have more and I would have saved money and I would have had a better quality lift. So do not skimp out. Do not go with the smaller lifts up front. Go with the big one in the beginning. You guys will be so much happier that you did, and you won't be stuck in the same situation that I am. Now don't get me wrong, I'm happy with my truck. I love my truck and I think it's great and I'm happy that it's lifted, but it could be so much better. So take this advice to heart, guys. Hope you guys enjoy this video. Please hit that subscribe and like button. It helps me a lot. I hope everybody out there has a good night. Take care. See you later.